Welcome back to the Backcountry PA podcast. This episode 137, and on this one, we had the honor of sitting down with the hunter who harvested #1 Pennsylvania buck from the Bowhunting League, Taylor Fleischer. This was not only a #1 buck, but it was also the #2 ranked buck in Mifflin County from Pope and Young. It was also harvested in the 3rd season that Taylor's been after this buck. And we hear the whole story about how he first had an encounter with this buck 3 years ago, how he found out about this buck, how he was able to track this buck down, find where her multiple beds are that he had, how he hung his trail cameras, how he hung his stands, how he had encounters with this buck. Didn't go his way necessarily, but it led to harvesting this buck on the perfect day, in the perfect area, at the perfect time. Everything was perfect about harvesting this buck at this time. And we talk about also how surrounding properties, because Taylor harvested this buck on private, we talk about how surrounding property pressure helped him actually harvest this buck. And we just get the backstory on this buck and what's next for Taylor. I want to remind you guys to go follow us on Instagram, go follow us on Facebook, like and subscribe on YouTube, Carbon TV. Also follow us on there, give us a rating. If you could also give us a rating on Apple and Spotify, it helps us improve, helps us be found more also. But I want to thank you guys for listening, for showing your support, and remember to keep hunting, keep fishing, keep your tradition, and always enjoy the figuring process.
If you're doing something and it's not fun anymore, you're probably doing it wrong.
First of all, I'm Cody.
I'm Ethan.
And this is the Backcountry PA podcast. Taylor, do you want to introduce yourself to the listeners, to us, who you are, how you got into hunting, all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah. My name's Taylor Fleischer. Started hunting like most young men in Pennsylvania. Grew up in central Pennsylvania. Rifle season, 11 years old. Started with my dad. We hunted a lot. It was our thing to do together, so it was a lot of fun. 13 years old, I got into archery, maybe something like that, 13 or 14, and don't really have much desire to pick up a rifle again. I mean, it's just a whole different can of worms, you know. So I still pick up a rifle for bear season, and if I got a tag to fill, I'll go out and rifle for sure. But archery is, man, that's what it's all about for me anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, because I picked up a compound. I think it was a year and a half ago is when I picked up a compound and I started shooting it. Got into archery with a crossbow, and I was like, man, this is like, I got a nice buck down, and then I was like, I want more. Like, I just felt like I could do more because I was capable of pulling back a bow, all that kind of stuff, and I knew I could put in the time with the bow to actually practice and be accurate and like feel confident with it. So yeah, I mean, it's very addicting. Like, crossbow's kind of addicting, but then when you pick up that compound, you're able to put in the time to practice. It's fun. Like, it's very fun.
Yeah, and that's the biggest part of it too, is the practice. And like for kids and stuff, and people just getting into archery, that crossbow is a great introduction. You know, it kind of gives you the feel of that early season woods and seeing deer in the rut, which is addictive, because you don't see that with a rifle. But and then there's kind of a regression, right? So you start with a crossbow, and then you're like, let's make this more difficult.
Yeah.
And go to a compound, and then you're in a compound zone for a while, and then you're thinking, I wonder what a recurve would be like. And you just kind of, I don't know. It's like you're continually trying to make it more difficult, as if it's not hard enough already.
Yeah,
so, I'm waiting on that from Cody. I'm waiting on, once you get a couple of deer down with the compound, Cody, I'm waiting for you to be like, you know what? Recurve. That's next.
No,
I'm waiting for it.
I don't think it'll be that kind of regression right now. I just think because with a newborn, like, it's just, she occupies a lot of my time. So it's like, I don't have nearly enough time, I feel like, to put in. For me, it's like, I want to be completely efficient with that weapon that I'm going out in the field with. Like, if I can't put the time in to feel confident with that recurve, I don't think I would be able to do it. Like it's the thought of it's fun. Like it's like,
Yeah.
man, instincts, like it's just pure instincts with the recurve. It would be really fun to like stalk up on a deer like the whitetail adrenaline guys do, to walk through there and just like in a field, like I forget where they were, like Nebraska or Kansas, something like that. They're stalking up on whitetails out there, and like one stands up and he just takes a shot like 20 yards, and it's like that. I can see why it would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, like I said though, I have a recurve. I've never sat in a tree stand with my recurve because I'm not ballsy enough to do it yet. I don't feel confident enough, but I mean, I shoot it some, not as much as I forget who. Somebody said if you're gonna shoot a bow or shoot a deer with a recurve, you can't pick up your compound at all. You just got to be fully committed. This is what I'm practicing with. I'm not gonna take it out in early season and then grab my compound.
Right.
It's like taking a bow and a rifle in a mixed season out of state. If you've got a rifle next to you, you're gonna shoot it before it even gets to bow range. So
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's there's so many different avenues you can take with hunting in general. Like you can take, now they have like semi-automatic rifles that you can take out. You have like even the shotguns, like you don't really even have to pump anymore for those. Like hunting has taken such a turn with technology in general, period.
Yeah.
It's still hunting. It's still very hard, but I feel like, and this is where the controversial debate topic comes in.
There it is.
Let's see how I segued that.
Oh yeah.
So obviously we're not going to get heated here. We're not going to, try not to get heated, put it that way.
Yeah.
But like, so Iowa is in the talks right now of allowing crossbows into their archery season, or in general. They can use it for rifle archery. I don't even know if Iowa has a rifle season, to be honest with you. I didn't ever really looked into it. But I think they're leaning towards allowing it, and there's a lot of pushback on it because a lot of hunters don't appreciate crossbows and don't think they should be allowed in hunting, period. So I'll just start out with my thought on it, like going back to what we talked about before, putting the time in with the compound to make sure you're accurate with it. Like a lot of people don't have the time or are able to put in that time. Like I have friends that work 50, 60 hours a week. I mean, they don't really have, and they have family, they have kids, they have all that kind of stuff. They have other obligations. They don't have time to put in practice with a compound or a recurve. And it's like, if they go get sighted in for this crossbow, they can get it done and then know they have confidence in that weapon when they go back out in archery season. So, I mean, I have no issue with crossbows in archery because I started out with crossbow. Like if you're using it ethically and it's legal, I don't see an issue with it. And it's people are saying just get rid of them in general. It's like, I don't think that's the right way to go. I mean, we're already losing hunters as it is. The more hunters we can get in the outdoors actually hunting, it helps us with the anti-hunters and all this pushback with legislation and like the government wanting to take hunting rights away from us. I think technology is more getting involved, which is helping kind of the anti-hunters too. So like we all just need to keep working together instead of hating on one specific thing and calling it out. Like people were against like infrared night visions type stuff at first anyway, and now they're all for it because it's helping with predator control. So people have to kind of like open their minds up a little bit and be like, okay, crossbows aren't the problem here. Like it's not crossbows, it's some people that have crossbows are the issue. I will say that some people take overly long shots they shouldn't be taking with the crossbow, or taking running shots with the crossbow. You got to treat it like a compound bow. You got to treat it like any other weapon. You got to be responsible with it, and you got to be ethical with it. And I just think that there's so much drama with crossbows, so much, and it's like compound bows, and this is going to be very, very difficult to say, but
here it is.
Compound bows are very close to crossbows now because of the types of sights you can put on. You can put a red dot sight on a compound bow, and you have also sights that have the yardage built into them. So like you pull that bow up, you look through it, and it tells you how far that target is away from you. So I mean, they're close. They just don't have a stock. Some have like I think 80% let off and 75% let off. You know, you still got to put in the work with a compound, but if you put a stock on that compound, it could almost be a crossbow, because they have those that are vertical also. Like you have the crossbows that are vertical ones where you hold it there like this. You have the stock right up against the shoulder. I just think there's people just get very hot and heavy over the crossbow talk, and it's always the same time of year. It's always around this time of year that the whole crossbow thing comes about. It's like, just let it go. It's crossbows and shaming. If I shot Taylor, if I shot the buck you shot, all right, with a crossbow, and it was right beside me, and I was happy I was holding that thing just like you were with a compound, people would bash the hell out of me because I shot that buck with a crossbow. No matter how nice the buck is, they'd be like, "Oh, you should have shot it with a compound. You're young enough, you can do that."
Yeah,
like that's the issue. Like, not crossbows. Those people right there are the issue.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm not a crossbow guy. Unless something medical prompts me to use a crossbow, I probably won't. I have fully healthy cousins that use crossbows. I actually just talked to a cousin of mine the other day, and he has a Raven, a very expensive crossbow, and I said, "How, in the woods, how far would you shoot?" And he's like, 50 yards. I said, "What about like field edge? How far would you shoot?" He said, "Well," he said, "I can hit a skull can at 100 yards with that crossbow."
Damn.
And I said, that's a whole different level of accuracy. I mean, you have guys like Cam Haynes that can shoot a skull can at 100 yards, but I mean, nobody's shooting. I don't know anybody that would even attempt a shot at an animal with a compound at 100 yards. Definitely not with a recurve, but the technology. I'm 32 years old, and the amount of advancement in bows and technology in the hunting industry just in my lifetime is mind-boggling to me, that where we'll be in another 32 years. When growing up, crossbows were just for the old guys and the handicapped guys.
Yep.
I mean, that's all, the only people that had them. And crossbows have been a great introduction. If crossbows get kids into archery, I am all for it. If they get a new hunter into archery, I am all for it. Like you said, the guys that are using them improperly, and the guys that are bashing things, bashing hunters that use crossbow, that's not good for us. It's not good for anything. But Pope and Young doesn't accept crossbow kills. You can't enter with that. So they clearly feel it's an advantage of some sort, which if you can shoot a deer at 100 yards, it is an advantage.
Right.
I love crossbows because my brother-in-law had a crossbow for a while, and I love to make fun of him with it because it was something we could talk about. But by all means, I would never bash anybody for using a crossbow in archery season. If they're short on time, if they're, the grandpa gave them a crossbow to use, do it. I mean, get out there. I could care less. I'm, like I said, everybody has their own thing. The same thing is in the rifle side too. I mean, 6.5 Creedmoor is getting bashed like crazy. Guys they're hating on it for really no apparent reason. I mean, there's no backing for it. Maybe there is in some scenarios, but guys just like to fight. I mean, it's just arguing to argue. There's no reason. I mean, if we all got along, there would be nothing to talk about.
Oh God, you know how great hunting would be?
Yeah.
I mean, it's already great, but it's this time of year is when you see all that.
Right.
It is, and like, I think those people who are bashing crossbows, if I see them out hunting with rifle, it's like, dude, why are you out rifle hunting? You have a compound.
Right.
What are you doing?
Right. Yeah, where's your flintlock?
Where's your flintlock at?
Yeah.
God,
you want to go old school?
Flintlocks.
Oh, you have a love-hate relationship with those things.
I love it, but I hate it because every time I see one and I want to shoot it, the damn thing doesn't go off.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say there's probably a close amount of deer that have been killed with the butt end of a flintlock as there is with the projectile.
Absolutely. Ethan, so what's I know you because you hunt with a crossbow.
I do hunt with a crossbow,
and you're very proud of it, and I'm proud of you for getting into archery with the crossbow. So, how do you feel about like these people that are bashing crossbow hunters and saying that you're you should be hunting with a compound because you're able to and you're not handicapped or anything like that?
They need to go see a therapist. I mean, I don't. I mean, I look at some of these comments on Facebook, Instagram, and it's like I need someone to talk to because oh my gosh, just the hatred that I see for crossbows from some of these guys is ridiculous. But I just said I use a crossbow and I use it because one, I won it at a gun raffle, and it's the only reason that I'm in archery. I got into archery at the beginning. I don't know. I didn't for the longest time, and I still don't think I can put in the time that I would feel is required for a compound. Like I don't think I'd be able to put in enough time to be that confident with a compound to be able to go get one now and put enough work in between now and the beginning of the season. I don't think I could. I really don't think I could. So that's why I use a crossbow. I still shoot a cross. I'm not, that guy that takes it out the day before, shoots it once, and says, "Yep, I'm good," and then goes out. Like I'll shoot it throughout the spring and summer. Every once in a while, my dad shoots a crossbow, so he'll come over to the farm and say, "Hey, let's set the target up. Let's go shoot a couple times, and then we'll be good." But yeah, I don't know. I'm for them. I think it gets more people into the woods in general, like especially people that can't, shoot a compound bow. It gets them in. So yeah. I don't know. I never had anything against them. If it's legal and you use it ethically and you're able to harvest an animal the quickest, cleanest, most kill that you can make, then I don't see why there's an issue.
So the other thing that I actually want to bring up is, if you're primarily in rifle and you go to archery and you go to a compound and you have no one in your corner that is able to help you with a compound bow or anything like that, walking on the archery shop is very daunting. Like it's like, I know there's two near me that, you walk into and like the techs, like kind of like if you ask a stupid question, they kind of like make you feel like you asked a stupid question. So it's like that in itself, you only got to go in there once with a crossbow and be like, "Hey, I just want this set up, take it home, dial it in like you do a rifle scope," and you're familiar with a rifle scope if you come from rifle. So I mean I think that is kind of also a reason why people are going towards crossbows coming from rifle. If they want more, was like 4-6 weeks extra of like in the early season, like it's daunting walking into an arch shop. It is like when I got into it, I knew jack shit about compounds. Like I didn't know anything. Like I didn't know what the sights were. I didn't know what anything was. I still kind of don't. Like I'm just going with it, honestly, and I'm having fun with it, but I'm going with it. It's scary. Scary going in there and asking all these questions. Getting string, like that's one thing, like getting string put on, like it's a scary situation. So
yeah, there's a lot involved there. I mean, sights, rest, release, what type of cam. I mean, it's ridiculous how much goes into it. But like I said before, though, it's kind of a regression. It's all kind of where you're at,
right,
in your hunting career, so to speak. I mean, crossbows get you started. If you ever, I mean, there's guys I know that will hunt crossbows their whole life. They love it. That's what they want to do. But crossbow, it's kind of like what guys will shoot as far as deer. Some guys first legal buck, absolutely. It's where they're at in their own hunting progression. I mean, you get to a point where you say, well, I've already shot a dozen 6 points. Maybe I'll try to get an 8 point this year.
Mhm.
And everybody is in their own walk of being in the outdoors.
Yep.
And for anybody to bash someone where they're at in their walk is absolutely ridiculous, because there's guys still trying to just knock bodies down and gain confidence
Mhm.
with a certain weapon, not just bows, with rifles, with crossbows, whatever.
Yeah,
But,
their car.
Yeah.
Body still with my car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you hit 5 doe with your car, eventually you want to hit a buck,
Then you upgrade to a truck, and that
Yep. Make sure you have a push bar.
exactly. Yeah, I remember. I think it was right after I got my truck, and we went up to camping around my cabin, and a doe came running out in front of me. I was like, "Damn it!" And I don't have a push bar on my new truck yet.
Yep.
The old Chevy had a push bar. I would have ran right through that bitch. But
Right. Pre-meat.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All right. So the real reason we had you on, Taylor, the real reason, you got a beautiful buck down in Mifflin County. All right.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the very beginning. So I looked on your Instagram posts, all that kind of stuff, and you had this buck. You had history with this buck for 3 years.
Yeah.
So when did you first find him?
Well, fall of 2020
Okay.
would have been the first time. I don't exactly remember what month that was, but we had pictures of him as an 8 point. Kind of his unique characteristic that carried through his whole life was a hooked brow tine. And most years it was 2 hooks. Both of them just kind of hooked in just a little bit.
Oh, wow.
So even as an 8, he had that. And then in 21, he was a really nice 10. Only difference between then and when I shot him was he had a split brow tine on the left side, which he didn't have this year, but he got thicker this year. So, but he looks almost identical now as as 2021. So he just got a little bit thicker, but it's the same, similar tine length, same sweeping tines, nothing crazy. Has a lot of junk around his bases. He's had that his whole life. Hasn't been a late season thing. Even as an 8, he had a lot of kickers and stuff at the bases, which has made it easy to separate him from the other bucks on trail cam, because you know what you're looking for and you know exactly which buck you're looking at.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, a standard Pennsylvania 8, you look at him one year and then next year you start to see another buck. You think, well, which 8 point was that? Unless he's got something unique about him, it's difficult for me, I guess. Yeah, me. I don't know if it's difficult for everybody, but to look at an 8 point and say, oh, that's that buck from last year. Sometimes it doesn't click for a long time as to who he is. Yeah,
I mean, I had one this past year. I had a velvet, and then I got him once hardhorned after that, and you could tell because the one tine was just a little out further than the other one. It was, you could see it almost like a split tine there, but it wasn't. It was just out there. So I knew when I got him on camera because he was the only one with that feature, and also he was the damn near biggest buck I've got on camera. Yeah. So that was another giveaway.
Right.
So, are you on public or private for Captain Hook?
Private.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got between my father and I, we have 30 acres.
Okay. All right.
Mifflin County there. Yeah.
Okay. So is this the first buck that you really try to get? So the 3rd year, is that when you try to get him, or was there other years you try to get him too?
Oh no, when I saw him in 2020, I thought that's going to be a real hard decision. I mean, I'm not Don Higgins. I don't wait for 200-inch deer. I'm, if it's close to Pope, I'm going after it. So, I would have shot him. I probably would have shot him in 2020 had he given me a shot. But, the day I killed this buck, the day before that, November 9th, it was the first time I'd ever seen him alive out of a tree stand.
Okay.
So he was kind of ghosting me for a couple years, and I never had to make that difficult decision as to whether or not I was going to shoot him or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you have all these pictures of him, so you only have pictures of him. Did you have him in velvet too, or was it just hardhorn?
Oh, yeah, no, I got him in velvet.
Oh,
This year, if I don't know how many total pictures I have of him during his whole life, but this year I've got probably close to 50 pictures and videos of him just in 2022 here.
man.
And yeah, he was showing off, man. I mean, he was on a lot of cameras all over that 30 acres. And after I killed him, some guys from down the valley sent me some trail cam pictures of him as too. They were over 2 miles away from where he was killed. So he moved around.
Yeah. So when was the majority of the cameras like taking the pictures of him? Like, were they all just on main trails? These cameras set up? Were they on trails, bedding areas, scrapes?
Yeah, I knew where he was. So this is the first year I was like fully invested in killing this deer only.
Okay.
I was. That being said, the last couple of days of the season, if something else would have came out, I'd have probably filled a tag.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I knew where he was sleeping.
Okay.
I knew both his primary and his secondary bed. He had two separate beds, and he kind of had a path between those two beds. They kind of dogged through some thick stuff, through some oaks that he liked to feed in. But where he lived, it's really rough terrain. It's really steep. It's really nasty. Where he slept was on a real small bench that overlooked kind of this monstrous hollow. You couldn't get in that hollow without him seeing you before you even thought about him. So he had himself set up to be alive for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he made a mistake, and that's what ended it. But he used wind. He had a very visual bed. He could see a long way. Where his bed was tucked up against a real steep side that nobody was going to come in from behind him. So he knew people were going to have to come straight at him, and he would either smell them or see them before they got there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you said he had like 30 some acres. So like,
Yeah.
how, like, I imagine you probably did a bunch of scouting on the property. You probably could grid search that over the 3 years. Like, you found all this stuff. So when you found his first bed, was that the first year you found it? Like 2020, was that when he found his bed?
2020, I knew very little about him.
Okay.
I had very little data. I only had a handful of pictures. I didn't know where he slept. I didn't know where he ate. I wasn't even sure if he lived there or if he was just passing through.
Right.
I didn't know if I would see him the next year or not. So 2020 was kind of my introduction to him, but I felt like it was a super long shot to kill him.
Yeah.
And then last year I had a whole lot more data, had velvet. I would say last year was when I found his first bed and kind of had a whole lot of information about him. So as far as like trail cameras on that bed, I was trying to figure out how he was getting to that bed. So I put cameras on his paths in and out, and I pretty much kind of knew his route. That all gets thrown out the window in the rut, but I knew his early season stuff.
Yeah. Man, that's are you primarily like a bed hunter, or are you like, do you hunt the beds a lot? Like over the years?
No, I typically hunt food sources. I feel that they're the best opportunity to get a wide range of buck, checking for does in that area. And there's a couple food sources up there that are real tight against real thick stuff, which is ideal to hunt that transition from thick to food.
Yeah.
So I like those transitions a lot.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, I personally have never found a bed of a buck. Like, I think I found a bed of a buck, and like you said, on a really steep slope. This bed that I found is actually right against like a huge boulder. Like it's right there. Like, he has two beds matted down near the trail going up. I think it's one of the bucks I have on camera, and it was like November 9th I have him on camera also. So I mean, and he looks like an old buck. It blows my mind how smart these buck are. Like, especially when they get of old age like that.
Yeah, they're not easy. I mean, no. I'm very fortunate to be able to kill them, but I mean, I I had him aged. I sent some teeth out, and he was 5.5.
Oh, really?
So
nice.
yeah, but I don't know. I mean, you get lucky. You can put in as much research as you want, but I mean, he could get hit by a truck. He could get hit by a train. You know, there's a lot of things that are working against you to kill a deer that old, especially over 5 years. I mean, he could have been killed by anything. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's hunting is a lot of luck involved with almost everything. Like it's like you can do all this scouting. I said it before, but you can do all this scouting, and it could buy a car, or it could go on the neighbor's property. Like do your neighbors hunt also?
Yeah. So it's a huge farm behind us, and they don't hunt a lot of archery, but they're heavy rifle hunters. I mean, they're crop damage type guys.
Okay.
So yeah, there's not a lot of public land, you know, right where I'm at across the river. You know, it's state forest, so he could have been over there. We've killed buck on our property that have swam that river and come from public. So I mean, they do it, but yeah, there's a lot of pressure there, though. I mean, it's not like I'm the only guy on the whole ridge that's hunting. Me and my father hunt our 30 acres together. It's not really anybody else that hunts archery with us, but yeah, archery is the way to go up there. And I think that has also fueled my passion for archery, is the fact that we're much more successful on our piece of ground with archery than we are rifle. I mean, there's so much thick stuff. They can crawl in rifle season and sit for 2 weeks and live off of belly fat, and they'll be fine, you know?
Yeah. Now on your private, do you do any food plots, any timber management, burns, all that kind of stuff?
We don't burn. We put in, we have 3 right now. We have 3. I'm going to add another food plot this year. But this past year we had a turnip patch, which was a dynamite plot for us this year. It was worked really hard all winter. They dug them all up, and there was nothing left. That was maybe a quarter of an acre. And then we have a clover patch that was really good for us too. And then we usually put in another oat patch just as some variety. But there's agriculture there. So for us to plant beans and corn doesn't make a ton of sense, because they can get that, you know, on top of the ridge.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I know Ethan's trying to do, is plant some food plots up at his place. I mean,
yeah, that's a process. I mean, putting food plots in, I mean, it's work in general, but like to put food plots in the woods, especially when your mountain is 95% flagstone, it's a pain in the ass. But I'm putting in clover and chicory. Just, I'm gonna say, first year doing it, so I'm doing everything I can just to improve the soil over the next, before if I ever decide to put anything else in, I want to make sure the soil's, you know, has improved over the years. But yeah, it's a process, that's for sure.
Yeah, and clover is a great one to start with too, because it does so much for the soil. You know, it fixes that nitrogen and makes it super beneficial to whatever you're going to plant next. So that's a good start, and it can take a little bit of shade too, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. I think I did that when I had my lease in Juniata last year. I tried doing a clover, like half-assed it pretty much. I did like throw and grow type stuff, and you know, I was like so happy when all these doe were coming around eating this like little bit of clover that was popping up. But then I got one buck coming through that was really nice, and then it was nothing. Like I had a blind set up there, and it just didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, it was just one of those things I tried, and then I lost the lease anyway because the guy sold it, but it's whatever. Yeah. But I mean, you don't, with your buck in general, not many people think of Mifflin County as like a big bucks like county. You know, like they think of like going out towards Pittsburgh and the Allegheny Mountains, or going up towards Ethan and Potter or Clinton County, like something with a big state forest on state forest land or something big like that. You know, you had to kind of battle with adjoining properties because they hunt, like you said, like the red tag, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like there's other farms around you that he could have easily just went to.
Oh yeah. And And it's, yeah, I like I said, the stars kind of aligned with this thing because there was many things that could have derailed my plan, So there's a train track that runs close to the river there, and I can't tell you how many buck we have found hit by the train. And it's heartbreaking because I remember one year we were chasing one specific 8-point, and we went down after season. We always walked the track, and there he was. I mean, he was plowed into a million pieces, and the one antler was broke off and down the track maybe 50 yards. He got hit hard, and it's always nice to close the book though. Like now we know what happened to him,
Right?
But I hate getting pictures of a buck, and you hunt him and then it's just radio silent, and you're just like, what in the world happened to this guy?
Yeah, like you don't know, like you want that closure. It's like when you go through like when you're in a relationship and you break up and you just want that closure of like why you broke up, like why'd you break up with me?
Right.
It's like that buck, like the buck I had on camera last year, Velvet, and then I had him once in October. It's like if someone got him, I want to know if someone got him. Like I don't want to keep like putting cameras out and hoping that he shows up on camera and not have that closure. Like you want that closure. It's like it sounds so messed up. Like if we would tell it to anyone else that doesn't hunt, it's like, why do you want closure? It's a deer. Like there's nothing, there's no connection there. It's like, but there is. Like there's camera evidence. It's like you need it. You just need it as a hunter, as an outdoorsman. You need that closure.
Yeah, and I always hope somebody gets to enjoy him. That's always my hope. I hope if I couldn't kill him and be excited, I hope somebody got some excitement or some joy out of it. Not EHD or a hit by a rail car. I hope somebody at least gets to enjoy the deer if it's gonna be killed by something other than me.
Yeah, I mean, I had one on camera like I think it was 2 years ago. He walked through like 11 o'clock at night. No chance of ever getting him. Like it was pure rut. He was just cruising right through. First time I ever got this really nice buck on camera. And it turns out one of my now friends actually shot him that same year, like a couple weeks after. So I actually got to hold him in my hands. Like I was like, oh man, this is, it's a nice buck, and it's like, man, this is cool. Like to be, and we actually recorded a podcast with him. Like he had the shoulder mount in the studio. Yeah. And I was like, man, it's like I'm living vicariously through you right now because you just got the buck I haven't had on camera once. Yeah.
I just picked up my mount yesterday. And we were at camp, and one of the guys that was also hunting the deer, he's like, can I just like stop in and touch it? And I was like, yeah, dude, like come on over. So that's what it's about. That's hunting to me.
Yes. Yeah. So was there on your property, it's only you and your dad that really hunt this property, that 30 acres, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay. Now we'll have some people that come in rifle season, sometimes, but in archery, it's pretty much just he and I. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how many people do you know that knew about this buck?
Oh man.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Like, were you posting pictures as you would get them, like, or did you kind of try and keep it like close to the heart, like just like hide it from everyone?
No, the only people I truly shared pictures with were friends of mine that think the same way I do about deer, and I shared it with friends, and then our one neighbor up there who has 10 acres on his cabin, he was hunting him as well, and anytime we did a card pull or check cell cams and get pictures of them, we would swap pictures with each other. But other than that, I mean, I was only telling friends, I wasn't like putting any pictures on Facebook or Instagram of him before he was dead, So, I wasn't even telling my grandpa about him. I was keeping it close chest. But no, it's
Not today, Grandpa. You're not getting him today, okay?
Yeah, right.
It's my turn.
Yeah, I don't want him to like show a picture to his buddies, and all of a sudden these old heads are up on the land, walking around.
Because you said you're close to state forest, so like they have to swim across the river to state forest, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So like there would have been no public pressure, like, if you posted it, someone would be like, oh, I'm gonna hunt as close to his property as I can to see if I can get him,
Yeah, so a portion of my property goes down to the Juniata River.
Okay.
And there has been more than one case of guys riding boats up the river and parking on the bank and then crawling up on the ridge. So that was a big concern of ours. We know there's some poaching that goes on there too. So there was a concern there too. It wasn't so much about, somebody like our neighboring property. If they'd have got them, good for them. There's nothing I can do about it. But we were trying to limit how many people knew that we felt would potentially be a threat to poach or sneak in on either us or our neighbor.
Right. Yeah.
Because that takes the fun out of it.
Yeah. I mean, the poaching is definitely an issue, especially around that area. I mean, it's every county, really. I mean, there's poaching everywhere. When you get into like the country, there's poaching going on. Like even up near my cabin, there was poaching going on. And like, it just irritates you, man. Like, it's just like, especially if it was a really nice buck like that.
Yeah.
Like, I forget, what was that one in, there was one, was it in Luzerne County where like someone shot with a small caliber rifle? Like it was,
I think it was a tag too. It was like 160 inch.
Yeah.
It was like 160 inch buck.
Yep.
Yeah. And they shot it. I think it was
near the prison.
Yeah. It was near prison ground. And they shot it with a small caliber rifle, not during rifle season, obviously, but it was just in at night.
Yeah.
Just because they wanted it.
And just let it lay. Like they didn't go get it. They just let it lay there. And then game wardens found it the next day. It was like, you're going to shoot it and you just let it lay there. Like it's a world-class animal. Like why would you
waste everything?
Doesn't matter if it's a world-class animal or doe or fawn or whatever. But why would you shoot it and then let it lay? Yeah. Like, what's the point of that? What joy do you get from that? Yeah.
Yeah. And I've always said it's a piss poor hunter that has to poach to kill a deer. I mean, I feel like there's no reason for it. No. The only justifiable reason that I could see that you would have to poach a deer is if it was a matter of feeding your family. If you're on hard times, honestly, I could care less about it. Shoot a doe, fill your freezer. I could care less.
Yep.
But to poach, trophy deer like they do with those bull elk a couple years ago, they killed a couple monsters and what's the point? Who are you going to tell?
Yep. Yeah.
You can't tell anybody.
Right.
Yeah. Like what, if you're going to like, I don't want to condone poaching, but like, if you're going to poach, like shoot a doe, like you said, like, it's like, let the buck go, let the bulls go, like shoot a cow, shoot a doe, like just get the meat, move on. Like
you got to be desperate for meat.
Yeah. You're going to get caught eventually, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not condoning poaching either. I mean, I would never recommend somebody go shoot a deer out of season to fill your freezer, but my grandpa grew up in hard times too. And that's what they had to do to literally stay alive. I mean, there was no money to go to the grocery store. They would shoot a deer out of season. They lived off of groundhogs, man. I mean, that's what they had to do.
Yeah.
Groundhog is good.
Yeah. Ethan made groundhog with 4/4. Tax tastes pretty good. So
heck yeah. I've had groundhog. It's not bad.
Oh, I've eaten it too. I have no complaints with groundhog. It's a big rabbit.
Exactly. That's the first big rabbit. I've never heard.
Yeah, live in a hole in the ground and eat vegetables.
Yep.
The one time Ethan made it up at the cabin when we made it over the fire and we just like burn it to a crisp.
Yeah, that was a half-ass job on that one. We were a couple too many beers deep on that one.
Yeah, we were a few natter days in.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I redeemed myself on that one, so it's okay.
Yeah, it was good. The Popeye was really good.
Yes.
So, Taylor, what year did you like start like trying to focus on one buck at a time, like trying to get history with bucks, and like really starting to like let them become more mature and making sure like it was like something you wanted to shoot?
I wouldn't say. I would say it's a year by year basis, honestly. I wouldn't say that. I don't have one specific buck on my property for next year that I've already decided I'm only going after this guy.
Right.
It's if the opportunity presents itself for me to solely focus on one deer, a deer that is, in my eyes, a trophy, a Pope and Young deer, I will do everything I can to kill that deer. But that being said, it gets to a point focusing on one deer where the fun's over. It feels like a job. And if it gets to that point for me, I need to kind of back out a little bit and think, all right, why am I actually doing this? Am I doing this to kill this deer? Or am I doing this to have fun?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the balancing act. It's fun when you get to kill that deer, but like for this deer, I had on November 10th when I killed him, I had 96 hours in a tree stand. Now they weren't all on him. They were some, back home in Cumberland County too. I had some tree stand time, but you have to hunt your butt off to make it happen. And some people, don't have the time and aren't willing to do that. And I understand it. Mm-hmm. I'm fortunate that I'm self-employed and I can take time to do that.
Right.
Not everybody can. So I'm the good Lord has blessed me in many ways. And being able to hunt like I do is one of those ways.
Yeah. I mean, when you're able to be out in the woods that long and you can actually put in the time and go after one deer, like I'm sure there's how many doe did you get down this year?
Zero
doe. Okay.
I didn't shoot a doe this year.
Man, props to you to hold out the whole time until that buck showed up.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I'd be sending it every time.
Yeah. So that being said, about 2 weeks before I killed him, I was hunting in Cumberland County back home, and a doe came out, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to shoot this thing. And I sent it right over her back. So like my confidence is shot now. Like I'm thinking, just a doe, just plug her quick and get out of here.
Right.
And I have no idea. I still don't know what happened, if I used the wrong pin or if I just flinched or what. But I'm telling you, as long as you hunt, archery is still extremely humbling. I mean, just when you think you got it all figured out, you don't.
Dude, the first year I went into it, we went out to PA Plotters, and I think it's Armstrong County. I always forget which county. I think it's Armstrong County.
Yeah.
Mike out in PA Plotters went to his property and hunted, and he had stands set up all his property already. Go to this ladder stand, I'm like, oh, I feel really confident about this. At like 4 o'clock, I have all these deer come out to my right. A big nanny doe with like 2 young ones come walking out, and I'm like, I feel really confident with my bow, all that kind of stuff. I put it on her, and it's going right forward. Then all of a sudden, it just dips below her, and I'm like, "You got to be kidding me!"
You're right.
But now I know it's because I never shot with those broadheads. I had fixed blade broadheads, like blackout ones.
Yeah.
Never shot with them on, and it sunk the arrow because I when I had my bow set up again out back here, I put them on just to see what it'd do, and it sunk it so bad, and I was like, "That's why I missed." Like it wasn't the wrong pin. Wasn't anything else. It just sank so quick with that. And it was like your confidence, like, man, I don't want to take another shot now. Like this is bad.
Right.
It's like demoralizing.
Right.
At least it was a clean miss. Yeah. It was a clean miss at least. That's always, I would say, always look at it that way. You missed her completely, you didn't wound anything.
Because I texted them, I texted Mike and Ethan, I was like, doe down. Like before I even got out of the tree. I was like, doe down. And then I went and checked. I was like, never mind.
Yeah. Never mind. That's an awful clean arrow that we got here. Yeah.
I think it was stuck in the log. I'm pretty sure it was stuck in like the fallen tree that was behind there. I was like so demoralized. And there was like, after I shot at her, there was a buck that was to my right. Like there was I would say he was like a 5 or 6 point standing right there in the food plot that he had. Like, and there was like 4 other deer and they just stood there looking at me. I was like, because she never blew, nothing like that. She just ran off.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, this is terrible. Where's my crossbow?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So after I missed that doe, I mean, you always hope you go back to the shop and you shoot at the target and it's way off, and it wasn't. So I had nothing to blame it on, but yeah. So after that, my dad and I, we always try to take 2 weeks to go specifically archery hunting, and we usually try to pick when we think it'll be good. So we went the last week of October and the first week in November, and it was so warm. I mean, we were getting bit by mosquitoes, and we were watching bats fly around, and we're like, this is not right, and
No.
and it was slow. It was terrible hunting. So I actually got sick while we were up at the cabin. I was coughing. So the one evening I probably ate 17 cough drops in the tree stand, and it didn't do anything. I'm like, this is pointless. I'm going home. So we went home, and then we kind of came back up. We got a few pictures of him daylighting on our cell cams, and I was like, I texted my dad. I was laying block, and I was texting my dad. I said, "Yo, we got to go. Like he's moving around. It's like we got to pack up and get out of here." So we went up. Then we drove up the morning before I killed him. We left the house at like 3:30 in the morning, and we went up and we hunted that morning. And I had this guy at 25 yards. In a thicket, kind of, he was coming exactly how I thought he was going to come. And there's something about mature buck. I think they have like an internal clock where they don't stay on one path for too long. Like they realize that these paths are for does that are just walking around, and it's almost like they know I can't be out in open sight for too long, So he's coming in this trail, and I'm ready to roll, and he just cuts right behind me. And he's, within bow range at this point, and I spin right back around to get him on this side, and I needed 3 steps, and he just, he never looked up. He never lifted his head. He just had nose to the ground walking, and he just spun around. He ran directly away from me, went out to about 80 yards, and gave me an old blow. And I'm sitting there like, what did I do? I had no idea. He never looked at me. He never gave me any indication that he knew I was there, but he just kind of sensed that something isn't quite right.
Yeah.
And he never like belly to the ground sprinted out of there, but he knew that he wasn't safe, so he was going to leave. And he kind of came right back where he came from. And I'm bummed. I'm texting my dad. I'm like, I think it's over. Like, I think that was our chance. He's probably headed to Huntington County at this point. Like, he's gone. And so we went back that day. And the next morning, I said to my dad, I said, let's go where he's been sleeping that other, I was pretty close to his primary bed that day. I said, let's go to his secondary bed and let's see if we can find him over there. Maybe he, boogered out of there and went to his second spot. And then the next morning, I'm in my tree stand. My dad is slow moving. He's getting another cup of coffee, another bowl of Cheerios. And I get a ping on my phone, and it's a picture of this buck down in the thicket below his tree stand where he should be. Yeah. But he's back at camp drinking coffee, So I text him. I was like, dude, get your stuff together, get moving, do whatever you got to do and get down in there. And so he gets his stuff together and goes down in, and I'm listening to a small buck off to my left grunting. I see a doe. I don't know what this small buck is, but I can hear him grunting. And I'm focused on that side. And then I hear a twig snap, and it's this guy coming down off the top. I assume headed over to that small buck and doe, trying to take that doe off that little guy. Mm-hmm. And he came down a 4-wheeler trail in front of me at 22 yards. And once again, his internal clock went off, and he got off that trail. And had he walked away from me, I'd have never got a shot. But he elected to walk directly at me. And he comes down to me, and he's in the spice bush, it's pretty thick understory. And he's coming down to me, and he turns, and I know he's going to cross my boot tracks. So I've got to shoot him or he's going to be gone again. Mm-hmm. And at 7 yards, I shot him between 2 spice bushes walking. So he just, I hit him real hard. I hit him high. I wasn't expecting him to be that close. Mm-hmm. I hit him high. He dropped, and then he got back up. And when he got back up, he was trying to figure out what was going on, and I was able to get a second arrow into him, and he piled up in front of me, maybe 30 yards. So it was it was just meant to be.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's
So
awesome.
what's the doe to buck ratio on your property? Like, is there a good amount of does, or do you try and do, because you didn't shoot any does this year on your property? So I'm like, is there doe management? I mean, I know the red tags beside you or next to you, you know.
Yeah.
So what's the doe population like?
Yeah, I can, man, in the years I've hunted there, I can think of maybe 3 doe I've killed off of there.
Okay.
I mean, that was a very selective, harvest, shooting an old, past her prime doe.
Mhm.
But the guys, we feel like we don't need to do hardly any doe management because our neighbors just pound them.
Yeah.
So it's almost like we're farming that out to the next guy, and it's not that we don't love the meat, we shoot a lot of does in Cumberland County, but we feel like
you miss.
right, yeah, right. Send it over their back, right? But yeah, so as far as our doe management, it's virtually non-existent. I mean, we don't shoot them because we feel like the ratio is not staggered enough for us to have to intercede. I think the neighboring farm does a good job, whether they're trying to or not. They're doing a good job of knocking the does back.
Yeah. So do you see, because of all their pressure on that property, does that entail send more deer onto your property because of all the pressure on their property?
Yeah, so in archery it does, because in archery season they don't hunt a lot in archery season, but they're working the fields, they're farmers, and they're running 4-wheelers and fixing stands and getting ready for rifle season, and so in archery season it's definitely beneficial, but in rifle season there's so much pressure and there's so many thick areas, thick hollows, and steep banks that nobody can really get to, that the big bucks especially, they just go away. I mean, there's not many buck killed up there in rifle season.
That makes sense. I mean, if there's that much pressure and people are moving around that much, like especially farmers, like cutting the crops, all that kind of stuff. Like, I know a lot of people say that, sometimes cutting the crops actually draws them out because they cut it, and then also, but that's more out like in Ohio, I've seen, Illinois, you cut the crops and then all of a sudden all these deer are just in the field because they're just picking up all the food out there.
Yeah. And it could go, I'm sure there's that aspect to it as well. But I mean, if they step into if a big buck steps into the field and gets shot at, he's not going back in that field for a long time.
100%.
They just often wonder where they end up. There's just so many places though that people aren't even walking. It's not that they're just sitting tight. There's just nobody going where they are.
Right. Oh yeah. So this year, when you got, how many pictures you have them this year in 2022, 2023 season?
Close to 50.
Okay.
Close to 50. Yeah. Right. I don't have an exact number, but yeah.
So when it all came together, you put them down, you got your hands, you saw them go down.
Yeah.
Well, let's back up here. What kind of stand were you in? What was your setup like for that?
Yeah. So I was actually in that stand. That was a ladder stand.
Okay.
It was they're called Mac Daddies, Primal Mac Daddies. They're one of the most comfortable ladder stands I've ever sat in.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that was a ladder stand.
Okay.
And obviously I'm compound guy and fixed blade guy, so that was kind of my whole setup.
Now I also saw you were shooting are they fobs? Are they
fobs?
I've been looking at those, like, in case I want to get into arrow building, because it just makes it easier if you have a drop away rest. So how did they fly compared to like the regular fletchings?
I'm a huge fan of fobs. I believe they stabilize a fixed blade substantially better than standard fletching. Even 4 fletches, I think they're better than 4 fletches. That's my own personal view. I know guys that don't like fobs as much. Zinger fletches is another one that's real easy. They just slide in and on just like a fob would. the other great thing about fobs is there is no glue. I mean, if you're target shooting the day before you go hunting and you Robin Hood an arrow or hit a fletch, you just pop that fob off and put it on another arrow and you're good to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't lose an arrow for the hunt. You just put it on another arrow.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've looked at them before, and like, I'm just not to that stage where I want to build arrows, you know.
Right.
I'm just not there yet, but like, that's probably what I would lean towards if I did anything, because it's just like, you don't really have to glue them on. You don't have to do anything. Like, just shoot them. And like, one, I don't like to try and Robin Hood my arrows because they are expensive. Like, that's one thing. Like, again, I guess it'd be cool, like a cool picture moment, but like to try it,
Right.
I'd want to try it.
Yeah, but like, all right, let's never do this again.
Let's not break $50 worth here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, but that's definitely something I would look at, because I saw them before, and I think they work. Don't they work with the Bowhunting League? Aren't they partnered with them or something like that?
Zinger is.
Zinger is, okay. Yeah.
Zinger, which is the same idea. It's just no glue. You just slide it onto the shaft and it's good to go. Bowhunting League actually gave me some to try because I was the top buck in PA. They sent me, a pack to try. So I'm looking forward to testing fobs versus zingers because that'll be an interesting comparison. But it's the same idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And then back to the tree stand, like we had a conversation when we went out to Illinois with the outfitter out there. He said, you don't see many Pope and Young, Boone and Crockett, whatever, buck being shot out of ladder stands. And like the fact that you shot yours out of ladder stand, like I saw a picture, like he dropped pretty much right in front of your stand.
Yeah.
And like the ladder stand is the background. I'm like, that is fucking epic, because like, you don't see many Pope and Young deer being shot out of ladder stands because they get so used to them. Like they're like, not that they get used to them, they just know they're there.
Right.
You know, it's they avoid them then.
Right. But I mean, all bets are off in the rut, man. I mean, I don't think if there's a hot doe standing under a ladder stand, a buck ain't gonna say, no, there's a ladder stand there. I'm not gonna go breed that girl. You know, he's going. He's like, you don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
it's like time to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you use any sensor, like cover scent, like anything like doe and estrus, anything like that, and when you go and set up like that during the rut?
Yeah, so I do on occasion. I've tried the pure whitetail stuff. I've tried Black Widow. I've tried a handful of them, but I don't know. I'm not sold on any of them. I don't believe that scent makes the difference between a successful hunt and an unsuccessful hunt.
Right.
Where you're set up is the bigger factor.
Yeah.
I don't think that you're going to draw a buck off of the next mountain because you got a chunk of cotton hanging from a spice bush thing that smells like doe piss. I don't think that happens. But that being said, if he's on a trail 30 yards from there, it may make him come closer to you and give you a better shot. But I don't think he's going to bring him there.
Yeah.
So,
instead of the cotton swab, use a tampon.
Yeah, there we go.
Boom. Yep. One of our buddies, Ryan Sarnowski, told us that he texted me one time. He was like, "Hey, I saw this, and dip a tampon inside of the bottle and just hang it." I was like, "Shit! Like, do I use like extra absorbent or do I use just regular? Like, I don't know which ones to use."
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm a pretty proud guy. I'm not sure I can be toting tampons around in my hunting backpack.
I asked my wife, I was like, do you have any tampons I can use? Because she was pregnant at the time. And I was like, do you have any tampons I can use? She was like, yeah.
Why?
Why do you want them? Like, don't ask questions. Just, do you have one or not?
Right. Yeah.
So I used one of those, and it worked. It really absorbed it. But it was almost like too much, because you put it in and like it absorbed almost everything in the bottle. And it was like, this is way too much. And then what do you do with it afterwards? You got to put it in a bag. And it's like, it was almost too much. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to try and use only sense I use is on scrapes. Like, spray the licking branch and then spray like in the scrape and then take a piss in the scrape also. Like and then hang your camera up. That's what you do. Like, I don't really, I don't believe in cover scent all that much. Like it's like I'll spray it down on me just because it's like in your mind,
Right.
I'm covered, but really they're gonna smell it no matter what. Like you're gonna sweat on your way to your stand. You're gonna your body produces hormones and all that kind of stuff. It's gonna fly through there no matter what.
Yeah. So the one thing I do have, like with my cover scent, I have a product. It's called Scent Blender. It's a company in Palmyra, actually.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have one of those. The founder of that company, or the co-owner, he's also a Penn State grad. So so we kind of made a connection there. But I was using that a good bit because there's so much spice bush where we are that that's an ideal scent to just spray everything down with. So I was mixing up spice bush in that scent blender with water, and I was spraying everything. Do I know that that's, what sealed the deal? No, I don't. But it sure gave me confidence. And if you're confident, you're going to shoot well.
Right.
So, yeah, I felt like a dirt scent. I mean, dirt scent spray, you spray that on you, it's a dirt scent spray, not dirt,
Yeah.
So it smells like dirt, but it's an artificial dirt scent. So I think it's really tough to beat, the natural scent of the understory anyway. So that's I think that's a good option to be tailor made to wherever you're hunting, in the pine woods or in the creek bottom, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at them before because it's like, you could literally walk in with an empty thing, have a water bottle in your bag, dump the water in there, then just like take leaves off the ground, just put it in there, and bam, you're covered no matter where you are. I mean, it's definitely it's a solid product to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were at I don't know if they were at the outdoor show or not.
They were, yeah. I got to talk to them a bit there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think I talked to them before they actually released their product on like Instagram. But yeah, that's definitely something that I would lean towards because I tried doing it myself. I got a big like cauldron, and I like put it on the grill, and like I put like leaves, and I put dirt, and I put all the sticks inside there, put water in there, and I actually have one sitting on the bar right over there. But it's like, it's you're spraying actually dirty dirt on you. I mean, be the same with scent blend, but it's like the scent blender. But I don't know. I don't feel confident with that stuff.
Right.
Right. Just go roll in the mud a little bit. Just roll around. Be like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah. But deer are smart, man. Like they're very smart. Like I feel like if they can sense when they're like, they just have this sixth sense. Like when your heart starts pounding really fast, you start releasing these enzymes. Like I feel like they just know that. Like they just know. They like look at you because like the wind's blowing the opposite direction. Everything's working in your favor. And then all of a sudden he or she starts walking in front of you, and then they look directly at you. It's like, I didn't do anything.
Yeah,
like I'm just my heart's pounding really fast right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I've had my heart pound so fast you wonder if they can hear it. It's like this is really pumping. I mean, I'm either gonna have a heart attack or I'm gonna miss this deer. That's the two options here.
Yeah, it's like when you're chewing chips or pretzels in the stand, it's like I can hear it really loud in my head. I wonder if everyone else can hear it this loud.
Yeah, I know.
It always seems like the woods get extra quiet when a deer comes around. The birds stop, the wind stops, everything just stops. Okay, everything I do, they're going to hear. And they do. And they run away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Taylor, what was it like when you walked up to him and put your hands on him? Like what was the emotion that ran over you?
So the phrase I've been using is bittersweet euphoria. Okay. So it's the most, you're so excited. But for 3 years, every trip to camp, every shed hunt, every scouting trip, every card pull was all because of that deer.
Yeah.
And now what? It's like it's almost like the end of an era. I mean, I'm ecstatic to kill this deer, but it's the closing of a book. And it's I don't read books, but I know that some people talk about, they're really, really sad when a good book's over.
Yeah.
And that's about how you feel when you finally kill a deer or that deer dies. I mean, it's just like, well, now what? what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
So, but there'll be another one. You know, I'm excited to look for the next one. But yeah, there's a moment there where you're like, man, 3 years builds up to this, and now you're like, well, you're moving on. It's like the end of a great relationship.
Yeah, it's like I always wanted to like the one motion I want to hear someone say is like they had Nirvana.
Yeah, yeah,
out of body experience.
yeah.
I always like, but close,
Yeah,
very close experience. So no tears, nothing like that. Just you're like, how many times did you pump? How many times did you punch the air?
It'd probably be too many to count. You know, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't get down out of that tree stand fast enough because I knew he was dead. You know, there was no second guessing. So that was a huge blessing. But I crawled down out of there and I just walked over to him and grabbed him and it just like hits you. You're like, this is what we're doing. And I just kind of sat down there and just kind of laid on my back and just kind of replayed the whole morning. I shot that deer at 7:24 in the morning. I mean, it was early. I mean, it was there wasn't much to replay. And then I text my father and he came up and helped me with them. And I certainly sent out a whole bunch of text messages in about 30 minutes, you know. But it was bittersweet euphoria. That's how I would call it.
That's awesome right there. I know. Like every time I would get one down, like when my grandparents had a cabin up in Juniata, the first person I would call is my grandma. Like it'd always be that. Like, so is that like your dad's always the first one you call? Because my dad was there, so that's why I didn't call my dad.
Right.
You know, like it. So that's the first person you would always call.
Always. Whether I shoot a gray squirrel or a 10-point, I'm calling my dad.
Gray squirrel with 10.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That'd be the best way to do it.
Man, that's awesome. I'm proud of you, man. Proud of you.
Hey, thank you. Thank
you.
you.
Absolutely. Like, there's no other words to really describe it. Like, that's a really nice buck. In Mifflin County, you had him on trucking for 3 years, and you got him down. Like, you put the work in. In those 3 years, you didn't like shoot another buck. Like, I think that's the most amazing thing. Like,
right.
Me personally, it would have been hard as hell to not shoot another buck. Like, it comes out like, because you know what would have happened. You would have shot another buck, and then he would have came out like the next day when you're doing some doe patrol. Like it just would have happened.
Yeah. So well, the year before I shot him in Cumberland County, I hunt a property where it's deer are a problem. I mean, they want them gone. Well, I feel like if I wouldn't shoot deer there, I may lose my permission.
Yeah,
you know, they want them gone. So the year before last year, I shot an 8-point in Cumberland County it was either the last day or second to last day, just to kind of get a deer killed on that property for them. But I was not going to shoot another buck, you know, there in Mifflin County until this guy was killed by somebody else or by my father or I. So
that's
I have them here. I'll show you them out here.
Yeah, man. Go ahead. So would you been just as excited as if your dad would have shot him?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Damn, that is massive.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He's real big.
Man.
So the other thing with the bow hunting league, they have the biggest from each state gets a free mount.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And the guy that did this for me, his name's Jeff Crawford, Whitetail Country Taxidermy up in St. Mary's, Pennsylvania.
Okay. All right.
So I drove up there yesterday to pick him up, but I'm telling you, Jeff, I didn't know what kind of taxidermist Jeff was until I got to see his work. But I'm telling you, his work blows my other work out of the water. I mean, if you look at the back of this, he's got that epoxied. This is all fake wood epoxy.
Yeah.
And then he carved the date I killed it into that epoxy there. That 11/10/22. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
That looks like legit wood. Not gonna lie, like that's freaking nice.
Yeah. So I got to get this thing hung up now.
You got to get that wall pedestal now.
That's right.
I'm surprised you didn't have a spot picked out for him for the last 3 years. Like, he's going to go right here.
Yeah, well, I do at the cabin, but so he's going to end up at the cabin for sure. But I want to just look at him every day for a little while. So I got to find a spot in Cumberland here to do that.
You got to do one of those. What you got to do is get one of those bourbon barrels and put them on top of that thing.
Yeah,
that would look sick.
Well, he's got a couple trees rubbed up there that I've always wanted to. I thought if I kill him, I'm going to go cut one of those trees down and use that as the pedestal.
Yeah. I'd say, so the trees he was rubbing, are they like normal sized trees, or like, because you always hear about these big buck rubbing bigger trees.
Right.
Small buck rubs small trees. So like, what were the trees that he was rubbing?
So where he lived, he was rubbing trees anywhere from 5 inches to 8 inches. I don't think I saw any bigger than 8.
Okay.
But there was a lot of small rubs too, like 2-inch trees, little whips. I wouldn't be surprised that was him too. I think they just rubbed to rub. I don't think they walk past a 4-inch tree and say, that would make me look too small. I better rub something bigger. I think they just rub. Yeah,
they do it just to do it, just to kind of mark their territory, put their forehead gland on it, all that kind of stuff. Like, there's no real rhyme or reason to it.
Right.
I mean, during the rut, like, they just rub anything just to show their aggression and mark their territory and be like, hey, I'm in this area right now. You know, I think that's what it is. Like, you see these big rubs, like up in Clinton County, like I saw some massive rubs, and it's like, yeah, it could be a big buck because there's a big buck in the area, but also it could be an elk in that area. Yeah. So like, you just don't know, honestly. Ethan, do you have any questions before I ask the final one?
Oh, I do want to say, because we said about saying this on the podcast. You were talking earlier about taking some of the old doe. I have an update.
Oh yeah,
on my doe. So I shot a doe this year during rifle season, and I sent the teeth in to get aged, and I got the results back this weekend. Now, Cody, I didn't tell you this yet. When I got the results back, because we thought the doe was going to be 4.5 years old, right? She was a big doe.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the results back, and it came back as 8.5 years old.
Wow.
Of a doe, right? So
she was big.
Wow. She was big. Yeah, she was big. I'll end up posting something on Instagram again because why not? That's an old deer. But then I was just curious. I was like, well, I wanted to see if they had, because it's through Deer Age. That's who I got the doe age from, and I was like, usually they have a picture of like the inside of the tooth. That's kind of how they age the deer and everything. I was like, wonder if they have it. So I went back on the website. I saw I had an email, like an official email. It says, hey, your deer's ready. All right, cool. Went back in. The age changed. They must have looked at it again.
Okay.
All right. And I guess it's done now because I got the email. So it's got to be done. It's older.
It's older than 8.5.
10.5. She was 10.5 years old.
Wow.
That's what they're telling me.
Oh my
10
God.
and a 10.5-year-old doe, and I got her on rifle season this year.
Damn.
So yeah, I was like, and I kept thinking, that made me think so much, like, well, how many more?
Yeah.
That are in that general, like within a year or two, are up there.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's 4 doe, all about the same size together, and I just picked. She's the one that gave me the shot.
Right.
I was like, if I would have shot any of those other doe, would they have been in that 8 to 10-year-old range as well?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, they get old up there.
Well, you also got to think, like, up there, people are just buying doe tags and not shooting doe. So, like, that's just how it is up there.
I don't see a lot of does taken up. Yeah, a lot of doe. I don't see it. Like, when you drive home, that was always the thing. Like, growing up, we go up for opening day at rifle season, and then when you come home, you look at all the cabins and see what people have hanging.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always,
yep.
I remember 99% of the time it was always buck. You never saw a doe hanging up. So
nope.
I was like, oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some old deer up there.
10.5 years old.
Yeah. 10.5. Yeah, I was like, oh.
Well, and when they get to that point, they're not breeding anymore anyway. I mean, they can't have fawns. All they're doing is eating eating acorns and sucking up air that a younger, healthier doe could use.
Yeah, and that's why like you wonder why people up north in Potter Clinton County, you know, even further up than that, like why they don't shoot doe. You know, like you gotta control the population somehow. Like you're gonna have, it's great. You know, go after buck. You know, that's great. Like I think everyone that hunts wants to get a buck down. Like their main goal when they go into hunting season is like, I want to get a buck down.
Yeah.
No one goes in and be like, I want to get a doe down.
Yeah.
You know, like if no one looks forward to that. But like the thing is, to control the population, to get better buck, to get higher quality buck, you need to control the doe population so that the buck population can prosper.
Right.
Like, that's the thing. Yep. And like I feel like up there, they don't do that. They just think they're in the old mindset of buck and or nothing. That's it.
Yeah. Because every year I make sure me and my dad, we always make sure we try to get a doe tag for up there no matter what. Try to fill a tag. And now it's like I'm curious. Now it's like I want more. Now I might be the one and only person that's like I'm going into the season where I want a doe because I want to see how many more that's not even like a big name. That's grandma. Like you told that yesterday. That's grandma. I want to see how many more grandmas we got around the area, and I want to see how many more are up in And right now, and I looked at it, people that use deer age.
Oh boys,
I'm number 3 in Pennsylvania for the oldest deer with my 10.5 doe. I'm number 3.
Let's go.
So I'm happy as shit right now.
Hey,
so you're saying the doe that you shot that out of, all those doe were about the same size?
Yeah, I looked at all of them. I was like, none of them were like no fawns from this year. They were all about the same size.
So it just makes me wonder if they're all that. I mean, if there's no fawns running with does, that's often a sign that you got a bunch of old does, because fawns are with does, for a while at least. But that's concerning.
Yeah, well, because I was talking to my dad about it. He even brought the point. He's like, those doe might not even be from our mountain. They might have been from another mountain, because this was Sunday, the first Sunday of rifle season. So deer running. They're being pushed everywhere up there. So we had at least 3. I think we had 3 or 4 fawn just on our property this past year. So I was like, all right, so there's does that are younger that are having babies, so they're still having that. But then, where did these old doe come from? Like, where'd you I'm trying to figure that out. It's like I don't know where they come, but rifle season, they're running everywhere. We see deer that I've never seen once ever during the spring, summer archery season. They just show up because they're getting pushed in rifle season.
Yeah. I think those are my grandma says it. She hangs out with the girls, and I think those are the girls right there. I think that's just a group of girls just hanging out, just watching some old movies together and going out to the diners and all that kind of stuff.
The Gilmore Girls, the Golden Girls.
The Golden Girls. There we go.
It's the Bridge Club.
Yeah. So Taylor, what would be your biggest advice to new hunters or to hunters that in general? What would be your biggest advice to them?
Well, obviously the biggest advice is do it. Go out and do everything that you want to do. Spend as much time in the woods, whether it's on your lunch break from work, walk in a patch that's, behind the development you're working in or whatever. I mean, you learn so much just from walking around about deer movement. It may not be deer you're going to hunt, but just in deer movement in general, rubs in relation to beds, trails in relations to beds, how they're working a certain terrain. As far as hunting goes, though, I mean, like a general hunting advice, I would just say find what makes you happy with hunting. Don't set your bar to somebody else's bar. Don't say I'm only shooting an 8-point. I'm only shooting buck. I'm not shooting grandma doe. I want people that hunt to thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah.
Not if it becomes no fun anymore. If you're frozen sitting in a tree stand and it's ruining your time, go back to camp. If it's not fun, don't do it.
Yeah.
So whether it's archery season, rifle, crossbow, compound, I could care less, but have fun and enjoy it. That would be my biggest advice is if you're doing something and it's not fun anymore, you're probably doing it wrong.
No. Yeah. Amen, man. Amen. Love it.
Yep.
Yeah. It's been awesome talking to you about, first of all, Captain Hook. Love hearing the story on Captain Hook.
Yep.
I wish your name was Peter, so I can call you Peter Pan and Captain Hook. Sadly, it's not.
I'm not a Peter.
But yeah, man, it's been great. It's been an honor talking to you, dude. And I hope to see you get another. Hopefully, you have another buck that's on your radar, and that you're like, okay, well, here goes another 3 years of waiting. And
well,
hopefully he outscores this one.
Yeah, a lot of guys have told me, that's a buck of a lifetime, and I said, man, I sure hope not. I said, I got a lot left, So
yeah,
you should be like, oh man, no, I got another one.
Yeah,
on camera. It looks like about the same size. It's gonna be a 170 next year.
Right.
Yeah, man. But it has been. Thank you for coming on here. I mean, making this work. It's been awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man.